My horse was really struggling to breathe, and it really made me super nervous because I was like, what am I going to do? I don't want him to have long term problems. Hi, I'm Dr. Rebecca, and I have been working with horses holistically for over 20 years. And today I want to tell you about the lungs. So, the lungs in Chinese medicine have a much broader scope than what they do in Western medicine, but they still have to do with respiration. So, whenever your horse is sick or having any sort of breathing issue, we're always going to work with the lung system. So, my own horse got really sick. I took him to a clinic and he picked up some sort of weird virus and he got this really bad respiratory infection. So did one other horse that went to this clinic. It took me weeks to get it under control. And I had the vet look at him a couple times, and I even ended up having to take him to the hospital. And so I was really concerned about long-term damage from this respiratory infection and whether he was going to end up having breathing problems chronically. So I want to tell you a little bit about the lungs today so you have a little bit better idea of how I worked with my horse to get him back to having no issues with his breathing. So the lungs in Chinese medicine govern respiration, but they also govern qi being distributed through the body and especially to the skin. And of course, respiration issues can affect stamina. It's not just breathing, but it's their ability to work and to recover. So the lungs actually govern the exterior of the body. So that means the skin and the coat. So a lot of times with a horse's lungs that are weak, if the lung system in Chinese medicine is weak, you will see some sort of skin issue to go with this. They'll have poor resistance to environmental factors. They'll have a dry coat. They'll have dry skin. They'll have reoccurrent skin issues. And they'll have an increased sensitivity to any sort of weather changes related to their skin. The lungs also govern what we call defensive qi or wei qi, which is part of the immune defense system in the horse. And so this obviously shows up in like my horse with the respiratory infection, that wei qi got damaged and the pathogen was too strong for the horse to fight off. But it also can show up in things like seasonal allergies, allergies of the skin, respiratory challenges, including RAO or what we call heaves, or anything that has to do with the body's ability to fight off an infection. So we talked about before that the spleen and the kidney have to do a little bit with fluid metabolism, but so does the lungs, but it usually has to do with upper body fluid metabolism. So we think about this with fluid in the upper body. This could be edema, this could be congestion. We always talk about the Chinese organ systems and how they also relate to behavior and to the spirit of the horse, and this is the same with the lungs. It's related to the metal element, so it has a lot to do with this ability to let go or to grieve. And you'll see sometimes that a loss of some sort will actually affect the lung system. You'll see this as melancholy. You'll also see it maybe as a difficulty breathing, but you'll see it as a difficulty bouncing back after a loss, whether that can be maybe their herd mate or even moving them to a different barn. And they just have this difficulty adapting. A really strong lung presentation, these horses will have a lot of presence. They will kind of have a no-nonsense attitude about life, but they will very much step up to what's required of them and do it with this gracious manner. It can be very steadfast and make phenomenal partners. So it's not that the other ones wouldn't make phenomenal partners, but they all have their own strengths, and that is part of the lung, is just to have this real presence to them and to make really great partners. They're the ones that like you can rely on. This week we're covering all of the TCM organs and we're talking about their broader scope than what we see in Western medicine. So if you're catching this and you haven't seen the other ones, go onto my profile and watch the other ones too, and we'll be adding more as the time goes on.